here from Soulflower Society, and welcome to Cel Robertson of Forever Green Flower Co. in Norfolk, England. Hi, Cel.
Hi, Deborah. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad you said yes. And this is kind of a do-over because we couldn't get Instagram Live to work, but this platform streams to three different channels. So hopefully we'll reach a lot of people that way and share a little bit about what's coming up. 1 week from today, Cel, you will be presenting with Dee Hall Goodwin at the Slow Flowers Worldwide Summit. I can't believe we're finally here. Thanks for saying yes, that you'll be part of our conference and being one of our speakers.
Well, I call myself a slow flowers grower. So it's actually a real privilege to be included alongside all of the other speakers that you have who are going to be presenting next week.
Oh,
And
that's
yeah, I'm
great.
excited to take part.
Sal, that's we should have met years ago. Like we followed each other on Instagram and social media, but we're too far apart with an ocean. So I'll come visit you or you can visit me.
That would be lovely.
Yeah, I just want to hold up your book. I was showing this briefly on Instagram and I've had this book since it came out about what, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yes, 2001, I
Oh
think.
my gosh, cut
Yes.
flowers, and it's such a wonderful guide because you can see it's like it's not like a big textbook. It's something that will really be useful and like was really practical, step by step farming advice. But also, I guess home gardeners could adopt some of these practices, right?
Absolutely. Lots of the information there. It's suitable for anyone who wants to grow cut flowers for themselves, whether they're growing on a slightly larger scale or growing in their home gardens.
And that number is increasing, Cell. I mean, don't you feel like you
It
meet
is.
people all the time who find out you're a flower farmer and then tell you how much they want to do what you're doing?
Yes, but I do say they might not like that idea so much. January in the middle of a muddy, wet flower field is not that much fun.
Yeah,
Um,
well, that's true. I mean, I'm in Seattle, and our climate is probably a lot like where you are in Norfolk. But you're farming. You're doing things on the farm right now. I bet.
Absolutely. Yeah, farming doesn't stop in January. We can slow down a little bit, but there's still a lot of work on the flower farm to do. So, and at the moment, we're starting to clear some of our perennial beds and we're getting them mulched with compost, so that, we're starting to get ready for the season. And it's quite scary to think in a way that actually it's just really 3 to 4 weeks before we start sowing our annual seeds again for
Oh
the
my
coming
goodness.
season. So,
Oh my
and I know
goodness.
the next couple of weeks are going to fly by and we'll be right into the season again.
Oh, good. Well, I'm glad I got you, like, when there's a little bit of a calm before the storm. But tell me a little bit about the education you do because I've been following your speaking at conferences and doing courses, and so the winter is probably a time when more of that happens for you, right?
That's right. Yes. So we are busy on the flower farm through the growing season, actually growing the flowers and selling as many as we can into our local community. But through sort of from November through to February, that's our workshop season primarily. And I do a little bit of teaching for newer growers and people just starting their flower growing businesses. This year, I'm actually quite excited because I've got a little bit of a more specialised coaching group going. Where I'm working with a group of growers who are growing specifically for the wholesale market. And
Oh,
so
wow.
that's really interesting. And that's going to be going, that's not just a one-off class. That's something we're meeting each month throughout the winter. And then we're going to be meeting again throughout the season, looking at different aspects of growing for the wholesale market.
Oh, I've never really
So
known anyone to do a course like that. That's so brilliant because it's such a specific
it really
niche
is.
for or channel. Like you've pretty much sell wholesale, is that correct?
That is the bulk of our business is direct to, well, we sell both direct to florists, but we do also sell into commercial wholesale, which is a sales avenue that we've expanded into over the past couple of years. And really my long-term goal for the business really is to deal with commercial wholesale. um,
Because you're like selling massive quantities of flowers
yeah.
to one customer instead of little bits to hundreds of customers,
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. And for us, we're really focused on trying to make as much, flowers that are grown in the most sustainable way possible. And one of the ways we do that is by selling sort of larger volumes into that commercial wholesale market,
Mhm.
and helping those growers who are specializing in that type of sale. That's that helps actually us fulfill some of our goals, which is to get more local flowers grown and sold within our local area, so, and sort of locally across the UK. So that, that's, it's not just about me selling as many flowers as I can, but it's also about me helping with some of the expertise I have, helping other growers to sell more too.
That's really a lovely sentiment. Like you're not seeing other growers, I don't know, as your competitors, but you're seeing them as like fellow participants in your mission
Yeah,
to just get more local flowers into the marketplace.
absolutely.
So what market do you sell into? Norfolk is a pretty big city, right?
So Norfolk is the county of
Oh,
England
I
that
see.
we're based in and that I live in. Our nearest city is about 25 miles away, and that's the city of Norwich. So for anyone who's not sure where that is, we're about 3 hours drive north of London.
And is Norwich where the wholesaler is and like where the
And
commerce
yes,
happens?
exactly.
Yeah.
So Norwich is where the wholesaler is. And my flower farm actually is located about a mile away from the sea. So we're in a very rural and coastal location. One of the downsides of that is that, we're not on the way to anywhere else for the local florists. So we actually reach quite a limited market as of local florists who can actually come and collect direct from us, at the flower farm. So us getting our flowers to the wholesaler means that then that wholesaler can get our flowers out much further afield. So our
Yeah.
commercial wholesaler in Norwich, they actually deliver flowers all across East Anglia. So that's the area sort of Norfolk where we are, right down to the boundary of London. So through
Wow.
Suffolk and Essex and Cambridgeshire as well. So that means that our flowers are getting out across a much wider area. So it's just many more of our flowers that we can shift and get into the hands of florists, sort of
It's
within 100-mile radius of the
yeah,
farm.
like you've really built your business model to fit your where you live and your
Yeah,
lifestyle and what you would rather be farming than driving your van around East
absolutely.
Anglia, right?
Yeah.
Well, a couple things I want to mention. Sel, first of all, thank you so much for joining the Slow Flower Summit. I sort of feel like there are two fairy godmothers who brought you into this. One is Dee Hall Goodwin because she is so committed to showcasing her members of Black Flower Farmers, and she's a Slow Flowers member, and we love collaborating. Dee has spoken at past summits, and she suggested you, and I was like, "You think we can get Sel? I mean, that would be great." So thank you to Black Flower Farmers and to Dee, and then also to Rita Feldman from Sustainable Floristry Network, who is also not based in the U.S. or U.K. but in Australia. And you're a member of Sustainable Floristry Network, or I'm not
That's
quite sure how
correct.
that's set up. Yeah.
Yeah.
So in addition to Sel's presentation that she's going to be doing with Dee, Sustainable Floristry Network has provided a bonus video that they filmed with you, I guess, last year or something. Just a real, like, so you're standing in the fields introducing people to where you grow and all of your practices. So that's going to debut as a bonus video for our attendees to see. And then I think it'll go out more widely through Sustainable Floristry Network. So you've got a lot of people who really are helping shepherd this partnership through. So thanks to them. One of the things that I guess I really love that you talk about so often, and it really connects the dots for people. Maybe you could just chat a little bit about this, and then we won't take too much time. But this idea that flower farming for you is a vehicle to talk about climate change and to actually be an activist in the climate arena. And I maybe I'm not using the right terms, but can you just talk a little bit about how that came to be and your thinking and your motivation?
Well, I guess I was actually introduced to horticulture through involved in climate activism.
Wow.
Um, so, you know, I came to growing through actually learning about the climate first and being involved in a couple of climate protests close to where I grew up in East London. Um, so I think I've always had that thread running through my life of being really concerned about the impact of climate change,
Yeah.
thinking about what the future is going to look like for my children. I have a son and a daughter. They're both in their 20s, and you know, they're looking at how their lives are going to roll out in the future as well. So that's, you know, something that has always been a sort of a great concern to me.
Yeah.
Um, and in every aspect of my life, I guess, thinking about our environment and the people around us, our communities, and how we all interact with each other. Um, you know, how we do that in a way that actually makes for a better world for all of
Yeah.
us. So it's
Yeah.
like, you know, big ideas, but
Because it's so overwhelming.
essentially,
But yeah, like what can one
yeah.
person do? And you're demonstrating in your world what you can do, and hopefully others will emulate that, right?
And that's, I think, you know, my ideas and everything about how we work and communicate with people evolve all the time. But I'm really thinking now about how we can influence more people and have more conversations and change more people's minds, um, just through the work that we do. And we know that flowers are just a great way to connect with people. Um, you know, you mentioned talking about Dee from the Black Flower Farmers Group and Rita, who's based over in Australia, and it's slow flowers actually, that even though it's, you know, a movement that, you know, really centers local flowers, it's a global movement. And, you know, the power of those flowers has brought me into contact with great people like that who are doing fantastic work. Um, and I think those flowers also can be really a powerful sort of way to connect with our local communities and get them really thinking about everything that they consume, all of the purchases that they buy. And it's just having that starting conversation. When I have groups of people coming to the flower farm for cutting workshops, for example, you know, we start off that farm tour talking about how I grow, but why I grow the way I do, and talking about flowers sort of in that global context. Um, and it just triggers so many interesting conversations and gets people thinking. And that's just the start, isn't it, of just getting people to think a little bit more consciously about
Mhm.
everything that they're doing in their lives.
I would imagine that those one-time visitors leave Forever Green Flower Co. farm not looking at a flower in the same way ever again, because
Absolutely.
you've planted that
Yeah,
question, like, where were
yeah.
these grown? Who grew them? How were they grown? I mean, you're talking about all kinds of elements, not just look at my gorgeous dahlia, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool. That's really cool. How now you don't really have a farm stand or any kind of um, retail setup on the farm. So these are groups that sign up for a course or schedule a tour. Is that how frequently does that happen?
So actually, once a month through the summer, I have a cutting workshop on the farm. So I can have up to 12 at a time. And I take them as a group. They have a bucket and a set of secateurs, and we go around and we cut what's in season. And then I sort of demonstrate how to arrange the flowers in some way using a sustainable mechanic, you know, showing them actually quite often things that they haven't seen before, because these are not people who are used to working with flowers necessarily. But it's just a whole experience of immersing them in the flowers, but it's the conversation that you're having alongside of that. So whilst I'm doing a demonstration, I'm talking about what floral foam is and what the, you know, the impacts of that particular material is.
Yeah.
So introducing people to, you know, I think what I found, you know, I've been growing flowers since 2014, and most people, when you start having a conversation with them, they generally don't know much about how flowers are produced, where they come from. You know, they just pick them up perhaps in the supermarket or in the florist, but don't give a thought to how they actually arrived there. So
I
it's actually just getting them thinking about that, and getting buying not just their flowers, but the conversation about flowers leads on to then about how food is produced, and perhaps how tomatoes are grown, and it gets them thinking
love
about
it.
all
Oh,
of that consumption.
yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like you're putting a face behind the flowers, and that connection is why we want people to go meet farmers at farmers markets and go
Yeah.
on do agritourism and do on farm events. And I'm sure it would be easier if you didn't have those cutting sessions because they probably disrupt your whole day. But what a beautiful opportunity for people to come learn from you. What can you just tell us a little bit about what you grow and how big your farm is? I'm just trying to wrap my head around it, just from seeing photos on your website and in this book. It's not enough. I want more.
Well, actually, I think my farm's quite small. It's only 1 acre.
Okay.
We don't own the land. We've been leasing the land for since 2013. We
Okay.
started leasing the land. Um, but we grow really intensively on that site. So about 60% of our production is perennial plants, and then the other 40% is a mix of bulbs and annuals. Um, so I guess,
That's
I
a
think we
pretty.
have around 200 varieties,
That's
getting up
crazy.
towards 200 varieties. But although we grow really intensively, what's really important is that we're nurturing that soil and building fertility all the time and looking at the biodiversity in the soil, making sure that we're enhancing and improving conditions all the time. And that's a real focus for the farm, that we are making space for nature within our production. So we're able to grow really intensively, but at the same time, we do things like do soil testing every single year, because that's not just monitoring levels of nutrients in the soil for our production, but it's also making sure, looking at the soil organic matter content, for example, that we're increasing that and improving conditions, not extracting and depleting
Right.
the conditions.
Right.
So that scientific analysis is really important, because that evidence is what we're doing is actually improving the environment around us.
And I think from a sustainability point of view, the fact that you have that ratio of 60% perennials
Yeah.
and 40% of annuals. The perennials are kind of like permaculture, right? Like you're tending to them, you're harvesting from them, and then I suppose there are times when you have to dig and divide and uh, handle the care and feeding of
Yeah.
perennials that way. But that's sort of as the farm matures and as you mature, you're maybe not killing your body as much either with perennials. Or I don't know, do you have woody crops too? Or
Yeah, we have a few woody crops as well. They're actually foliage plants are some of my favorites to grow. Um, and it's lovely having the shrubs on the farm. They're the plants actually that for me are the most sustainable plants to grow. You've got those living roots in the ground all of the time. They're photosynthesizing from the air, so they're converting that carbon and storing it in the soil. We run a no dig operation, or minimum till. So like you say, we only really dig when we're lifting and dividing perennials, and yeah, that saves my back as well as keeping the carbon stored in the soil. So it's a win-win for
yeah.
both us and the environment.
But the balance of also having the annuals gets you that like bang for your buck, that instant
Yeah.
gratification of the favorites that people expect uh, to see in your buckets and in your when you take them to market,
Yeah.
like the easy to grow things as well, right?
Well, actually, importantly for a small scale sort of local grower like me, looking at those varieties that don't travel well, that the wholesaler wants. So Cosmos, for example, we couldn't be without Cosmos. That's one of our biggest cash crops, because that's one of the things that the wholesaler will have the most returns on from the imported crops, because it just doesn't travel well.
Yeah.
But our Cosmos, we've kind of got a real name for certain crops in our area, and yeah, the Cosmos certainly is one of those. But the perennials really are the backbone of the flower farm.
Yeah.
They provide those steady crops through the year. um, that are much less labor intensive, but still giving us, that lovely variety. And that really true annual crops, you've got that, you can succession sow so that, you can have cosmos for, 12 to 14 weeks in the season or
Right.
something.
Yeah, it doesn't
But
quite connect to a specific moment in time, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah. Whereas your perennials are actually truly seasonal, aren't they?
Mm,
So,
mm.
yeah.
I gotta get over to visit you, or you can come here, we'll welcome you in Seattle. But in the meantime, we'll be joined by 100 attendees, coming to our virtual, conference next Friday and Saturday, and Sel, you're presenting on Friday, and I
Yes,
will
with
just
D.
say the 30th, and with you and D are presenting at what will be 10 a.m. Pacific time. And so what is that? Like 8 p.m. your time, or I'm trying to think, 10, no,
About 6 o'clock, I think.
6
Yeah,
p.m. GMT. Also, people can watch the replay of the videos, presentations and the sessions for up to 3 months. So,
great.
life gets busy. We may not get everybody in that conference portal when your presentation is airing, but people will have a chance to watch it if they register. So I'll share all of that information when I post this. And in the meantime, I just want to thank you, Sel, for being part of this. It's such an honor to spend time with you. I'm glad this virtual interview worked out. And anything else you want to add before we wrap up?
No, I'm really looking forward actually to speaking with Dee, because I know that we're going to be doing a bit of a Q&A after our presentations, aren't we? So it will just
Yes.
be really interesting to meet with, everyone all the participants who are joining the summit. And
Yeah,
yeah,
bring your questions. We'll probably run out of time, but it'll be a good start to stimulate the conversation. Thank you
yeah.
so much. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you in a week.
Thanks so much, Deborah.
Thanks, everybody.